Hello and welcome to Dreams of Wings, and welcome here to Wycombe Air Park, which is near High Wycombe, and this particular version is from Pilot Plus. It's a fantastic little airport. I've spent some time here on the ground, and it's a great location to start our flight that we're going to be doing today in a T-6 Texan, but we're going to be pretending it's a Harvard. And it's a special Harvard, and I'll be telling you about that as we get going. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at our aircraft. And there she is. Now, one of the great things about flying in the simulator is that every now and again you get an opportunity, thanks to the hard work of some really talented people out there, to fly a rendition of a real aircraft in the simulator. And this is one of those great examples of that. Here we've got a rendition of Wacky Wabbit, which is a UK-based Harvard, which has been put together by Matt Wynn and Martin Pengelly, and it's just a beautiful repaint, very faithful. Of course, this is a T-6 Texan and not a Harvard, which is what Wacky Wabbit is, but for the purpose of this flight, and because we're British, we're going to call it a Harvard. But it's a stunning repaint, very realistic, and it's a real pleasure to fly it. Now, if you want to get hold of this repaint, it is available. I'll put a link below. It's available on the official Wacky Wabbit website, which is www.t6harvard.com. But as I say, I will put a link below. So if you want to fly it yourself, you can grab it from there. And a huge thank you to Martin Pengelly for making this skin available to fly. Much appreciated. It is a beautiful piece of work, and I think it's always great when we do get this opportunity to fly an aircraft that does exist in the real world. It just makes it a little bit more real. And also, I think hopefully it creates awareness for these old aircraft that, after all, we need to keep up in the sky. We need to make sure that they keep flying where they should be, and that they're not forgotten and they don't end up in a scrapyard somewhere, because they're just too beautiful. They've got too much history and they mean too much to us to allow that to happen. So just also to quickly tell you about the guys behind this repaint, Matt Wynn is the guy who's actually put this paint together. He's designed it. He's got his own website. I'll put a link below. His work is just absolutely beautiful. Martin is a, I don't know the right word, enthusiast probably doesn't sum it up. He knows more about this kind of thing than I will ever know. And one of those really fascinating people that you meet in this world, who know an incredible amount about aviation and the history of aviation as well, and particularly these warbirds. So very interesting talking to him. And you can see that Matt and Martin have really put everything into this, and just absolutely got it right. Now, one of the incredibly exciting things about this also is that you can actually fly in this aircraft in the real world. You can fly as a passenger, or if you've got the necessary qualifications already, you can actually learn to fly the Harvard. You can convert to type, and it's a great opportunity. There's some really good offers at the moment during the pandemic. I will put the link below, the direct link to actually book a flight, just so you can go to the page and you can see what it's about. But what a fantastic opportunity. Okay, so why don't we quit me waffling, and why don't we get up in the air and do some flying? Okay, so let's get going. The first thing we need to do is bring up our little controls menu, and we're going to remove the pitot cover, and we will take away those wheel chocks as well. And then also, because why not, extra juice helps, we will plug in our ground power unit. Okay, so here we are in the front cockpit in our Harvard. You can actually fly from the rear cockpit. I shall show you what that actually looks like if you do. Unfortunately, due to a limitation with P3D, it doesn't actually show the pilot in the front. So it's not quite as difficult as it would be. If you imagine if you were doing this for real and you're here in the instructor position, or the passenger position, but if you were flying it, the instructor position maybe, you'd have someone's noggin right in front of you there in that kind of triangle shape, just where the propeller is. I cannot even begin to imagine what it would be like to try and fly from this position. Certainly from a seeing it in the simulator, it looks pretty difficult. But in the back here, you've pretty much got all the main controls. You don't necessarily have all the electrical switches and things like circuit breakers, but you have enough that you can fly the aircraft, and of course you've got a set of instruments there as well. So let's pop back into the front. Okay, so first things first, let's bring up our control menu. We are going to have a look at, I just wanted to quickly check. Yeah, that's all good. So first thing we're going to do is hand prop it now. Because this is a radial engine, you've got cylinders down at the bottom, as it were, underneath. And there's always the potential, especially if you haven't flown it for a while, that you could have some oil in there. And if you try to start it, you could have a hydraulic lock. So what we're going to do is just hand prop the propeller just for a moment, just to even everything out, get the oil flowing a little bit. We would count 9 blades, and I haven't been counting because I've been talking to you. So we're going to have to guesstimate that. But the good thing is that the prop is moving quite nicely. Give it another one just for luck. If incidentally you had any problems with the with it not, if you had a hydraulic lock, then what you do, we'll quickly pop outside, is you bring up your oil clean kit there, and that will drain the oil out. You can actually watch it in this window here, which is where you can make sure you've got oil, hydraulic fluids, and you've got your fuel tanks topped up. You can actually see the kits installed here. Now, if we had any oil down in the lower cylinders that needed draining off, you would see that slowly fill up. But as I have been flying it, there's really nothing there, so we're not seeing anything come in. So we'll take the oil clean kit out again, and we will jump back into the cockpit. Right, let's get our checklist up. We know that we've got fuel, so that's good. We know we've topped everything up, so we're good there. So we've done our hand propping there. We've removed the chocks, the tie downs, and the pitot cover. Our controls, we need to unlock those, and that is just down there. There we go. Seat belts, shoulder harnesses, we've done that. Flaps, we have this lever down here. Let's put the armrest up. We have this lever down here. Now, that's the down position, that's the central lock position, and that's the up position. Always good to remember in this aircraft, there are 3 positions. In some aircraft, you've got an up and a down. This one you always need to remember you've got a middle one, because you could, if you're not careful, you could be selecting the wrong thing. Fuel selectors, we're going to put it onto the left tank. We've got full tanks. Now in this aircraft there's more fuel going through the carb than is actually needed, and it gets drained into the left tank here. So we start with the left tank. If we started with the right, there's always the danger that we could overload the left tank here and we have fuel starting to drain out. The reason I was looking down there is just that bit there is just another part of our indications that the gear is down and locked, but we'll come on to that a little bit, but I just thought of it when I was looking out there. Right, where did we get to? So flaps are, let's just double check, we put that in the up position. We have fuel selectors on the left tank. Trims are neutral. Gear lever is down, and we have good indication here. We have 2 greens, and we have good indication out there, so happy with that. If we really had a problem, we'd be flat on our belly by now anyway. Gear switch down, we've done that. Radios are off, and all our electrical switches are off. Yeah, autopilot is off, and circuit breakers are all in. We're not going to be doing air traffic control today. If you're new to flight sim, if you've not seen this before, there are various ways that you can actually do air traffic control. You can use the rudimentary air traffic control that's built into P3D here, or you can go onto VATSIM or even Pilot Edge and have real controllers who are sitting there in their homes or wherever who are controlling the traffic in the airspace. But for the purposes of this flight, we are in this kind of end of the world situation where there are no other pilots in the sky. Just makes it a bit easier, a bit more simple. Okay, so we've done that. We've checked that the prop's been pulled by 9 blades. We've done that. Fuel selector we already know is on the left tank. Throttle, we're just going to crack that open slightly. Mixture is full rich. I'm just making sure that my physical controls here are matching what's happening in the sim as well. And the prop, unusually, is full decrease or fully coarse, and that's where we started off in this aircraft. Battery we're going to leave off for the time being because we're using the ground power. We are now going to, I tell you what I will do. Parking brake, just check that is on. That didn't feel like it took. There we go, parking brake's on. Yes. We'll go for, I think we'll go for 3 strokes. As it's a summer's day. Let's have another one just for luck. It's a summer's day, so weather's not too bad. Now we'll engage the starter down here on the floor. We count 4 blades, and then we put mags to both, and then we do the priming. So let's do that. Starter engage. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's give it some. And she's not going. Oh, there she goes. Okay. So we check our oil pressure is coming up. That's fine. Avionics, generator is on. Now that we've started, I'm going to take off the GPU, put the battery on, put our nav lights on. We don't have a beacon as such on this. We will assume that we've got people out there making sure that no one's going to come near us and get in the way. Everything else is looking good. Oil pressure is quite high. What we can also do now, let me just turn the avionics on. There we go. What we can also do now is, I'm done with that, aren't I yet? We can just come over here. And there we go. Oil pressure is greater than 40 psi, so we now increase the prop all the way to fully fine. And we're looking for between 500 and 600 RPM. There we go. Just chugging a little bit. Right, we'll turn all the radios on. We're not going to use them, but we'll turn everything on. We've got a nice little GTN 650 here, but we're not going to be using that. I've not loaded a route into it. We're just going to be using the little nav map just to navigate for this one. done. That's good. That's good. Happy with all that. Just having a good look around, making sure that I've not missed anything. I'll put the pitot heat on at this point. We don't need smoke. We don't need our passing lights or anything like that. Okay. T's and P's all looking good. Our oil temperature just down at about 17 there. Okay, so now our oil pressure is good and we've got our propeller fully forward here. We're just going to raise the throttle just so the RPM here is about 1200, just for warming up a bit. Don't need to go any higher than that. Go up to about 14 if you want to, but I'm going to leave it there because I'm a cautious soul. This is probably a good time to say this is not a tutorial. I'm not an expert at flying the Harvard. I've kind of done it the wrong way round in that I flew the Spitfire and I've flown the Spitfire a lot in the sim before I really spent any time in the Harvard. If you're new to this, if you're interested in getting into this, I can really recommend doing it the right way. Start with the Harvard, nice World War II advanced trainer, get to grips with that. It's called the Pilot Maker, and it's called the Pilot Maker for good reason. It's a great way of learning to fly a tail dragger and learning some of the quirks that you have to deal with later on with other warbirds, and it's a cracking little aircraft to boot, so why not? Looks like we've gone into a bit of shadow here. What I will do is, just to make it a bit easier, I'll just switch the cockpit lights on just to so you can have a better look. So yeah, everything is warming up nicely. Let's do a quick hydraulic system check. Let's lower the flaps. We see our hydraulics drop as the flaps are lowered. And then that's come back up to the normal position. Let's raise them again. We see the hydraulic drop slightly. And that's all good. Right, okay, so what we'll do is we're going to taxi out onto the airfield and we'll do our run up when we get to the or near to the threshold, really the holding point. The wind today is 10 knots from 110, so I think what we'll probably do is take 06 right to the grass runway. Might change my mind when we get there, but why not? So we've got a bit of taxiing to do, and we might as well get going with that. So releasing the brakes. I'm just going to close that. Let's release the brakes again. Check the brakes. Yep, that's all good. And just using a little bit of differential braking here just to steer us. We do have some tail wheel steering if we pull the stick back. The great things about tail dragging is we have to keep a good lookout on what's going on. It really has gone quite gloomy, hasn't it? It's a pity that. I think the sun is just in the wrong position, unfortunately. So we're passing the threshold of the grass runway, nothing coming in. Certainly shouldn't be. And you can just see the grass runway over there. So we need to turn here onto the taxiway in between the two runways. For this I'm going to put the stick fully forward. That releases the tail wheel and just means we can do a slightly nippier turn. And then we'll just head over down to the end of the runway. Visibility is certainly a little bit better in this than it is in the Spit, but you've still got that dirty great radial in the front, which makes it a little bit harder to see what's going on. Again, there's no other aircraft with us today, no AI or no other humans around, so we're not expecting to bump into anything. So I'm going to wind a little bit. There we go. Right, let's do our run-up check now. So, first of all, we're going to raise the throttle so that we've got 1600 RPM. Then we're going to check the prop, check the carb heat, go up to 2000 RPM, check the instruments, check mags, check the cruise mixture, check. So we pull the mixture back slowly, looking for a slight increase, then 100 RPM decrease, and then mixture right back to rich again. Then we throttle back to idle. So let's do that. So first of all, throttle, we're on the brakes here by the way, throttle up to 1600, cycle the prop, so we see an RPM drop on the first one. The second one, if we look down here we should see fuel, oil pressure drop, not a fuel pressure drop. We'll do one more just for luck. Okay, you normally do that a bit quicker, but there you go. So carb heat, let's check for an RPM drop. That didn't take, do it again. There we go, get the click spot right. See the RPM is dropping a bit here. Let's put that back to the cold position, doesn't want to grab. Okay, so let's go up to 2000 RPM now, and we can do our other checks. So up to 2000, check the left mag, good drop, and right, good drop, looking for maximum ready there of 100. Now we bring our RPM back slightly. And we now do our cruise mixture check, so bring that back. There's our RPM decrease, back to fully rich, and we throttle back to 400. And go to the next page. Lovely sound. Right, let's check. We've got full. Oh, press the wrong button there. Come back. There we go. Full movement. Everything is looking good. Rudder's good. Yeah. I'm going to turn off the cockpit light at this point because hopefully once we get up there we won't need it. We're going to turn to our right tank now. Mixture is rich. Prop is fully forward. The primer is locked. Yeah, primer's locked. Everything is good. We're going to put our elevator to 11 o'clock, take off, and our rudder to 2 o'clock. Let's just get the right switch here. There we go. That will do. Flaps are up, and another quick look at the engine gauges, and everything is tickety-boo there. That's fine. Okay, so for takeoff, we're going to be looking to put the throttle somewhere between 32 and 36 inches. We certainly don't want to get any higher than that, and we're going to rotate at 80 to 90 miles an hour. Let's see if we can do this. Get rid of that now. Quick check, nothing's coming. Slowly increase the throttle, move the stick forward. Back on the power, there we go. And rotate. Crosswind playing there a bit, but we're up. Okay, let's close the canopy. There we go. Gear up. If we, I don't know how well we'll be able to see. You can see the indicator there on the wing is showing that the gear is knocked down and locked, and we can see from our indicators down there that that's the same. Okay, just move a few things around. So I'm trying to fly here and also look at things on the other screen. Let's get the checklist, not that one. That one, there we go. So climb, we're looking for 30 inches at 2000 RPM. So we're going to throttle back first, down to 30 inches, and then we'll bring the prop back to 2000 RPM. There we go, that's nice. Okay. And there is High Wycombe. Start a gentle left turn here. Get the nose down a little bit. That's about as high as we want to go, really. So again, throttle back. And we'll bring the RPM back just a little bit. There we go. Trim her out. Sensitivity on the trim quite high at the moment, which is playing about a bit. So in my controls here I have a little Logitech multi-panel with a little trim wheel on it, so that's what I'm just doing at the moment. Quick check here. So yeah, cruise we want 24 at about 1850, so that's not far off. Okay, so now we can enjoy it a little bit. So yeah, weather is a summer's day. Current wind is 29 knots from 131. Visibility is not too bad at all. And here we are in our beautiful Harvard. Just lean the mixture a little bit. So our first stop, I say a stop, it's more a flyby, is RAF Halton, which we can see down here. That's Aylesbury there. Western Turville is that first little village, and then Aylesbury over there. Just going to bring around slightly. There's the parade ground. Warbeck's True Earth scenery in version 5 is absolutely fantastic. It really does bring it to life. It actually makes it very difficult to go anywhere else where you don't have this kind of True Earth aerial photography scenery, because it is just so realistic. Talk a little about what aircraft, the real world aircraft that this repaint actually depicts. So what we're flying here is Golf Bravo Juliet Sierra Tango, and she was made in 1953, so post-war, as a T-6J by the Canadian Car and Foundry in Fort William, Ontario. And she was actually marked for the American Air Force, but never actually got there and ended up going to Italy, and then in 81 came to the UK, and in 2013 was bought by the T-6 Harvard Aviation Limited, and in 2020 Andy Goodall, who is the current owner, picked her up, and he is the pilot, and thanks to him for hosting the repaint file on his website, which is great for people to be able to actually go there to the real thing and pick up the skin for their simulated aircraft. But Andy does flights for passengers, and as I said earlier, you can convert onto it if you're already a pilot. I don't want to say too much because his website is absolutely fantastic. Everything you could ever need to know about Harvard is on there, and rather than me waffle on about bits and pieces, I strongly urge you, if you have the slightest interest in Harvards and Texans, head over to the website, because it's not all about Wacky Wabbit, it's about the history of Texans and Harvards. There's pilot's notes that you can download, a whole host of things. It really is an absolutely cracking website. There's Leighton Buzzard down there, and over there we have good old Luton. We have Luton Airport. If you're wondering why I said it in that accent, you have to be a child of the 70s really, otherwise it probably doesn't mean much to you, and you've probably been saved from some 70s culture that you don't need to know about. So yeah, I think it is wonderful that organisations like Andy's keep these aircraft flying. They do need our support to be able to keep doing that, but we need to keep these old girls up in the air, to remember those that flew them in conflict, the ones that helped to keep them maintained. I'm just flying to a bit of cloud there, so I'm just coming away from it. That is the funny thing about P3D at the moment with the enhanced atmospherics, and when you're using Active Sky, which is the program I'm using to provide weather, all of a sudden you can find yourself running into cloud that wasn't immediately visible, so we'll just fly away from there. So at this stage in the game, which is February 2021, version 5, there are certain aspects of it that are still really kind of being worked on, and the whole weather aspect of it, or the integration of something like Active Sky and the way clouds are structured is something that is still going on. So it's not 100%, but it's good enough. Certainly enough so we can keep out of the way of the white stuff. But the Harvard stroke Texan is beautiful to fly. It has its quirks. It's a heavy aircraft, so ground handling, you have to be very careful that you don't end up going into a ground loop. And it teaches you good habits. And it's, to my shame, it's an aircraft that I don't fly enough. And certainly I should fly to try and improve my skills a bit. Barton Leclerc just down there, and just on the nose we've got hitching. Also on the nose we've got some clouds, so I'm just going to bring us down a little bit. Come off the power slightly. Just make sure we come to the north of Hitchin. And then that's Letchworth just beyond it. We want to stay north of those. There we go, just tucking underneath the cloud now. Things I love about this aircraft is that you really do feel the it's a hard thing to get across on a video, but you really do feel the wind and the gusts buffeting you. This isn't like some of the stock aircraft and other things that you get in flight sims sometimes where they almost fly on rails. This is, you really do feel this aircraft, and I think that's one of the reasons why A2A have got such a good following, and at the end of the day they make simulators for the military and also commercial organisations, so they do know what they're talking about. And it's just incredible, and it still amazes me that we get to do this. When I started doing flight sims in the 80s, they were pretty rubbish compared to this. And I remember my dad, who was in the Air Force, inviting pilot mates around to look at the amazing high-tech flight simulators that I had on my ZX Spectrum. And at the time, everyone was amazed that you could sit in front of your telly and fly these really basic flight simulators, and now we have something like this, which is just incredible. And for me, as an aviation enthusiast and someone who isn't necessarily in a position to do real world flying, it's the next best thing, really. If there are any younger people watching this, if you're interested in being a pilot, just pursue it, just go for it. It's not the cheapest thing to do, and you need a lot of dedication for it, but if you can, go for it. I was very lucky in a previous life stroke career. I got some flying training as part of the job, so I got as far as first solo, which was great, and then that was it, and I didn't necessarily have the money to then go ahead and carry on with my flying training. Life kind of got in the way, but yeah, definitely a good thing to pursue. But in the meantime, I can sit at my desk with a brew and do this, which isn't bad. And we're just lucky we got these aircraft. It was A2A that got me back into simming. I was getting bored with the stock aircraft because I couldn't find anything that felt like anything that I'd actually flown in real life. And A2A came along, and I found I had this aircraft that felt like the real thing, and it was quite incredible. Anyway, I'm waffling. So yeah, we've gone past Letchworth now. Got a 30 knot crosswind up here, so just having to Basingbourne, because with this scenery, should be able to see a reasonable amount of it. One of the interesting things about this true earth scenery is actually being able to, because it's photographic scenery, you're actually pretty much flying over what you would do in the real world, so sometimes it's quite interesting to have a look at places. But yeah, you can see there the remnants of the old airfield. Down there on that tree line section. Interesting. Okay, let's go to Duxford. So let's have a quick look at what the weather's doing at Duxford. Wrong one. Back. There we go. So we've got wind 129 at 14 knots. So we'll take 06, which is quite good. We'll have a bit of a play over Duxford, and then we'll just come in and take 06. Interesting. Our date is summer, but we must have live weather because that is showing us temperature is -3 degrees. That's interesting. Let's have a quick look at the weather, see what we've got. Doing anything at the moment. Looks like it's just got the live weather. So, only in a simulator could you have a summer's day with live weather from the middle of winter. And there's Duxford just off there in the front. Probably can't really see it much at the moment. So we'll just have a little play. And one of the things I learnt quite early on in this is, especially if you come from the spit, there's a tendency to, because of the sound of the engine inside the cockpit, and also because it's a relatively slow aircraft compared to a Spitfire, it's all too easy to ram everything fully open. We are very lucky to have some real-world Texan pilots in the A2A Simulations community, and Rob Wilkinson in particular, who's an experienced display pilot, and he was a great help in pointing out that I was behaving like a lunatic with my power settings. So that definitely helped. There's Duxford. So I'm going to power up a bit, but I'm just doing the prop first. Don't want to go too high on the prop. Keep an eye on the speed. Because we are coming in quite high, I've reduced the power slightly. Is the GTN getting worried? Don't worry, chaps.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Opening the power a bit.
Hold on. Hold on.
We have got our crosswind. We've got 180 knots on the clock.
Hold on.
Watching the speed. That is quite a strong crosswind. Best loop in the world. Crosswind took us over a little bit. Aerobatics is not my strongest thing. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to switch Matey Boy off. There we go. Just for the purposes of this flight. The top, that's a bit better. There we go. Bit better than the last one. Practice makes perfect and all that. Looks like our just wigging out a little bit there. Crosswind plane in a bit slightly. Okay, we've had our play. We've done some very amateur, I was going to say amateur dramatics, that's probably about right really, isn't it? Amateur aerobatics. Okay, time to make a landing. Let's bring up our checklist. So, autopilot is off. Need to reduce the speed to 130, which is pretty much where we are now. Carb is cold. Canopy is open. Fuel selector onto the fullest tank. So what do we got? 45, about the same, leave where it is. Gear down. Two greens, good indication, happy with that. Mixture's rich. Prop to 2000, which is where we are. Let's turn base. A little bit of flap now. Sun's come out a tiny bit for us. Well, let's do away with this now, so it doesn't get in the way. Quite a way out for this approach, really. We can start turning in rather than doing a standard circuit approach. We're on a warbird after all. They're allowed to do things differently. wind now. Trim a little bit. A bit fast, reduce the power. Go for more flap. Full flap now, more trim, dropping quite quickly. There we go, right, let's focus. Get some more trim in. Getting blown around a little bit there. Yeah, quite gusty. Drifting a bit. Okay. So we drifted to the right a little bit there, but that was an interesting one. Okay, flaps up. The landing lights on for that approach, but we didn't have anything to light up or to warn that we were coming in. So there you go. Thank you very much for coming along for the ride. I hope you found that interesting. Please do check out the Wacky Wabbit website, and don't forget, if you fancy flying this wonderful skin, head over there as well and download that, and you too can have some fun in Wacky Wabbit here at Duxford. Thanks for coming along, and I look forward to seeing you back on the channel soon. Cheers now.